The moment I opened my door, my blind date didn't smile. She grabbed my arms so tight it hurt and whispered, "Please don't react, someone's been following me." My heart stopped, because at that exact second, I thought I saw a shadow move behind her. I had no idea that this night, meant to be a simple blind date, would change my life forever. The knock that changed everything. I wasn't even sure why I agreed to a blind date that night. That I'm a simple guy. Quiet life. Small apartment. That my friend kept saying, "Just try once. You never know." So I cleaned my place, wore my best shirt, and waited. Then came the knock, knock, knock. I took a deep breath and opened the door. She stood there, nervous eyes, shaking hands, breathing fast. Before I could say hello, she leaned in and whispered those words, "Someone's following me." I looked past her, down the empty hallway, and nothing. Just silence. "Are you sure?" I asked softly. She nodded. "I felt it, all the way here." Her fear didn't feel fake. It felt real. Deep. Heavy. I stepped aside. "Come in. You're safe here." The moment the door closed, she finally exhaled, like she'd been holding her breath for miles. We sat on the couch, lights low. I offered her water. Her hands were still shaking. "My name is Sarah," she said. "I'm sorry. I didn't want our first meeting to be like this." I told her it was okay, but my heart was racing. Every few minutes, she glanced at the door. Every sound made her flinch. Then she told me something that made my chest feel tight. She said she recently moved to the city. No family. No close friends, just trying to start over. But lately, she said, her voice breaking, "I feel like someone is always watching me." I wanted to believe it was just fear, but deep inside, something felt wrong. Suddenly, one loud knock on my door. Sarah froze, her eyes filled with tears. "That's him," she whispered. My body went cold. I slowly walked to the door and looked through the peephole. I opened it carefully. Empty hallway, but on the floor was a small folded piece of paper. I picked it up. It had just 3 words written on it: "I see you." I closed the door and locked it. That's when I realized, this wasn't just a date anymore, this was something much darker. The truth behind her fear. Sarah broke down crying. I didn't know what to do except sit beside her and let her see our why. No touching. No questions, just presence. After a few minutes, she wiped her tears. "There's something I didn't tell you," she said. She confessed that months ago, she helped report a crime. A powerful man. Dangerous people. She did the right thing, but disappeared quietly. Since then, the fear never left. "I thought changing cities would help," she said, "but fear has a way of finding you." I looked at her and realized something important. This wasn't weakness, this was courage. Exhausted. I told her we would call the police, that she wouldn't be alone anymore. She hesitated. Then nodded. Just then, my phone buzzed. Unknown number. One message: "She doesn't belong with you." My blood ran cold. I stood up and checked the windows. Nothing outside. But I made a decision right then that I wasn't letting fear win. We called the police. We told them everything. An hour later, patrol cars surrounded the building. They found someone hiding near the stairwell. The same man who left the note. He was arrested that night. Silence returned. But this time, it felt different, safer. Sarah sat quietly, holding her cup of tea. Her hands were steady now. She looked at me and smiled softly. "You didn't have to help me," she said, "but you did." I shrugged. Sometimes doing nothing is the real danger. That night, the blind date didn't turn into romance. It turned into trust. Weeks passed. We stayed in touch. Coffee turned into long talks turned into healing. She learned to feel safe again, and I learned something too. Love doesn't always start with butterflies. Sometimes it starts with fear. Sometimes it starts with choosing to protect even when you're scared yourself. Months later, Sarah told me something I'll never forget. That night, she said, I wasn't just running from someone following me, I was running towards someone who would stand with me. That night taught me a powerful lesson: you don't have to be strong to save someone, you just have to be present, because sometimes opening a door doesn't just let someone in, it changes two lives forever, and that blind date became the beginning of the most meaningful connection of my life. That I thought the story ended the night the police took him away. That I was wrong, because real fear doesn't disappear in one night, and real healing takes time. Sarah stayed distant for a while after that incident, not cold, just careful. Some days she would reply late, some days she would cancel plans at the last minute. That I understood, when someone has lived in fear, peace feels unfamiliar, even scary. So I didn't push her. I stayed consistent, simple messages, simple care. Did you eat? Did you reach home safe? I'm here. One evening, weeks later, she called me crying. I thought I was okay, she said, but every sound still scares me. I went to her place without thinking. She opened the door, and for the first time, she hugged me tightly, not out of fear, out of trust. That's when I realized something important. Love isn't about fixing someone. It's about walking beside them until they can breathe again. Slowly, Sarah started to smile more, laugh more, live more. We cooked together, watched old movies, shared childhood stories, and one night, sitting quietly on the balcony, she looked at me and said, "You were my blind date, but you saw me when I felt invisible." My throat tightened. I replied, "You didn't come into my life by accident." Months passed. Fear turned into strength, silence turned into laughter, loneliness turned into home. One day, she stood at my door again, but this time, there was no whisper. No fear, just a smile. "I'm not running anymore," she said, "I'm choosing." That's when I understood the final lesson. Some people enter your life shaking, and leave holding your hand, not because the world became safer, but because together you became stronger. And that blind date, it didn't just change one night. It changed who I am, and who we became, together. Sometimes, the strongest love stories begin with the scariest knock on the door. I thought love would arrive loudly, big words, big moments. A perfect beginning, but ours came quietly, like morning light after a long, dark night. Life slowly returned to normal. Or at least, a new normal. Sarah started sleeping better, she stopped checking the locks 5 times, she began trusting the world again, one step at a time, and I learned patience, real patience, not the kind where you wait for something to end, but the kind where you stay. One evening, we were walking in the park. No phones, no rush, just silence and shared air. She suddenly stopped. "Do you ever regret opening that door?" she asked. I didn't answer right away. I thought about the fear, the danger, the sleepless nights. Then I looked at her. "No," I said, "because if I hadn't, I wouldn't have met the real you." Her eyes filled with tears. That night, she told me something she had never told anyone. She said that when she knocked on my door, she had already decided. If I looked away, if I didn't believe her, she didn't know how much longer she could keep running. My chest felt heavy. I realized then, sometimes, we become someone's safe place. Months later, on a quiet evening, she placed a small note in my hand. It wasn't fancy. Just 3 words, "Stay with me." No pressure. No fear, just choice. I smiled and replied, "I never left." We didn't rush promises. We didn't chase forever. We built it, slowly, with trust, with honesty, with the kind of love that doesn't shout, but stands firm, because the safest place in the world isn't a locked room, it's a heart that chooses to stay.